All right, part two for you. Let's check those quick check answers. So let's see, we're looking at angle H, trying to find the measure of, set up the ratios for these inverse trig functions. So I'll mark angle H here and then label my sides, okay? Still the first step, just like the other ones, we mark the angle. Second step, label the sides. Let's see, we got hypotenuse over here, I abbreviated. Opposite this angle, opposite OPP, and there's adjacent. All right, so to use the inverse sine, I have to have the side opposite, which is SA or AS, over the hypotenuse, AH. So there's that one. We put those into the inverse sine, we'll get the measure of that angle H. Inverse tan, tan is opposite, which is AS, over adjacent, SH. And then for the inverse cosine, if we want to use that to find measure of angle A, we have to use the side adjacent, which is SH, over the hypotenuse, which is AH. All right, let's look at something with some actual finding some measures here. Example 2. We're going to set this up. You're going to see how easy these are to solve. You just basically set them up and put them into your calculator. All right, so we're going to find the measure of angle D and the measure of angle F. So the measure of angle D first. I've marked D here, and now I'm going to label the sides with respect to the angle D. I don't think I got them. Yeah, I do. There's the hypotenuse, and then opposite angle D is over here, and that leaves this third side as the adjacent. So I am going to use, I could use any of the inverse trig functions because I know all the signs, all the sides. I chose inverse sine. So to set it up for inverse sine, I need the side opposite, how big it is, it's 21, over the hypotenuse, because sine is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 29. So if I input this ratio of sides into the inverse function, using the calculator, I'm going to get the measure of that angle. Oops, I already have it undone for you. It says it's a 46. Round to the nearest degree, so we're not rounding to the tenths. So if you turn on your calculator, make sure you're in degrees, hit the mode button. Degrees is highlighted on mine, so I'm good. And then I hit the inverse sine. To get inverse sine, it's above the sine, so you got to hit the second key first. It shows a little arrow right there. It's going to do the thing on top of that key. Then hit sine, and you'll see you'll get the little -1 there to represent inverse sine. Now I want to put in this ratio, this fraction, 21 divided by 29. Close my parentheses, hit enter. And this represents the measure of the angle. The output is the measure of the angle. Input was the ratio, the output is the angle. And to the nearest degree, it's 46.3, so since it's lower than 5, this decimal, we're going to leave it at 46 degrees. Okay, let me know if you got any questions. That's how easy it is. We set it up, put it in the calculator, we get out the angle measure. Now, the second angle, we don't even have to set up a trig function for, because whenever you know the measures of two angles in a triangle, you can find the third one pretty easy. So this is 46. Because we should know from geometry A that all the angles have to add up to 180 degrees. So if I take 180 degrees and then subtract the two I know this one's a 90-degree angle there because it's a right triangle. And then the one we just found was 46. And then what's left over is for the third angle, which is 44 degrees. Okay, so remember that whenever you have two angles, you don't have to set up a trig function. We know the 90 and the 46. The third one's always easy to find, just using, regular geometry here. No trig. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's look at the next example. Here we are. What do we want to find? The quick check, find the measures of angle A and B. So you might want to pause this video and try it on your own, and then check out the answer in a minute, okay? See how far you can get before turning on the video again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Hopefully you tried it on your own. So I've got, I'm going to set up for the measure of angle A first. I don't know B, so I can't do it the quick way. I got to set up a, inverse trig equation here. So label those sides. I don't think I did it in this one, so I'll have to do it with my marker. I'm going to use H for hypotenuse. Opposite angle A is over here. Here's my opposite. So this makes the adjacent over here, ADJ. Alright, so we got our opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. I have chosen to use, again, we know all three sides. I could use inverse sine again, inverse tan. I've chosen to use inverse cosine just to do something different. Because again, we know all three sides, we could use any of them. We can set up the ratio for any of them. So cosine is adjacent, so 5 over the hypotenuse, which is 13. So if I put this ratio into the inverse cosine using my calculator, I'm going to get out the measure of angle A. So we do that here, show you again. So you got to hit the second button first, and then I want inverse cosine, so I hit the cosine, and there it is with this little -1. And put in the fraction 5 divided by 13, the ratio of those two sides. We input that and we get out the angle. To the nearest degree, it's going to round to 67 degrees. So there's the angle A. To find the other angle, again, we don't have to use a trig equation when you know two of them. I know this is 90, this is 67. So again, we take the old 180 minus those two angles, gives us the one that's left, which is 23 degrees. So there's our two angles. Let me know if you got any questions. Now we'll do a little bit more here. This one, we're going to be solving for some sides again, just to get used to, we use inverse trig equations for angles, we use regular trig equations for sides. You look at this problem and I notice they want the measure of angle G. So the first thing I do is look at okay, I know this one's 90 and I've got the 55. So I've got two angles. I don't have to set up a fancy trig equation, inverse trig equation. I can just do the old 180 minus the two I know gives us the last one, angle G. Okay? So now I've got the angle G is 35. And we're missing these two sides. So now we got to go to our regular trig equations. I'm going to solve for, I'm going to use the original angle here and label the sides with respect to the 55-degree angle, okay? And what will they be? Did I have them? No, don't have them marked. So let's pencil it in. With respect to this 55-degree angle, of course, over here is our hypotenuse, H. Opposite is over here, the side that measures 15. That makes this third side over here, LJ, the adjacent side. Now, let's see, one more thing I'm going to go ahead and do is, we're missing two sides, so one of them I'm going to call X, this side GJ, and the other side I'm going to call Y. So I'm going to solve for GJ first, X. So we've got done our first two steps. We've marked the angle, we've labeled the side, hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. Now we're going to choose the two sides we need for our first equation to solve for X. Of course, we have to use X. So we're going to be using the hypotenuse, and we have to use the side we know. We know this opposite side is 15. So, well, we can choose our trig function. Trig is, let's see, hypotenuse and opposite, that's sine. So I know the sine of the angle, which is 55, is going to equal the opposite side, 15, over the hypotenuse, x. And then remember, the next part to solve is to set it up as a proportion and cross multiply. So this cross product is x times the sine of 55 degrees. So remember, you put your x first, sine of 55. The other cross product, 1 times 15, is 15. To undo this multiplication here, x times the sine of 55, we want to get rid of that sine of 55, so we divide by the sine of 55 degrees. So that cancels out over here. We've got x by itself. We're ready to pick up our calculator and put in 15 divided by the sine of 55. I've noticed some of you, skip showing these steps and sometimes get them wrong. It will help you if you do all the steps here. and then look at it, and this is division. Sometimes we're multiplying, right? But this is 15 divided by the sine of 55, and you should round it to the nearest tenth, is just one decimal place, 18.3. Now we're going to go ahead and solve for y and set up an equation for it. So we've got our sides labeled with respect to this 55-degree angle. Now we'll choose our sides. I'll use a different color here. I'm going to choose, I've got to have the y side, so I've got adjacent. And I'm going to use this original one we knew, the opposite side. So opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent of the angle we chose, 55 degrees, equals the opposite side, which is 15, over the adjacent side, which is y. Go ahead and put it as a proportion. Cross multiply, this one, y is on the bottom, so it gets multiplied by that trig function. Y times the tangent of 55. A lot of you doing a great job with these equations. Equals the other cross product, 1 times 15, 15. All right, and now we're going to go get rid of that tangent of 55, so y is by itself, so we divide to get rid of that multiplication. Divide the other side. So we got this tangent crossing out over here. We've got y isolated all by itself, and it equals 15 divided by the tangent of 55 degrees, which comes out rounded to the nearest tenth, should be 10.5. That's the last example I'm going to do now. I want you to go ahead and do the quick check, and then call me over and I will check your work when you're done with that quick check, and then you'll go on to the practice. Good luck. Let me know if you need any help on this last quick check.